I recently asked people to send me audio files. That way I could give them some feedback on their pronunciation. And today we're going to be doing our first file, focusing especially on stress to see how changing what words you emphasize in the sentence is going to help you achieve a much more natural sound in American English. Good morning, guys. Good evening. Good afternoon. Welcome to your daily American English pronunciation show, which is Wake Up American. We are here usually around the hours 7 to 8 a.m. New York to make sure you can get in your 5 to 10 minutes of practice for a day because that's what it takes if you're serious about pronunciation. And I'm here to help you with that. Hi, my name's Geoff, Rise of Breath. It's one of the 4 keys for natural sound, including placement, pitch, breath. Trying to weaken your consonants in order to strengthen your vowel sounds. And we're going to be tying in a couple of those concepts actually as we listen to this file. Allow me to share my audio so we can take a listen to this file and give some feedback. I want you to especially pay attention to the stress patterns of this word or this phrase. And we'll talk more about that if you're not entirely sure what that means. But let's take a listen to it first.
The first time you get sick and your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup and massage warm oil onto your throat, you wish you never made fun of how she said scissors like scissors when you were 9.
Okay, now before we get into stress patterns, I do just want to highlight one vowel thing. Compared to words scissors are those things you use to cut, and Caesar being the Roman emperor. Okay, so compared to pronunciation on those, you don't want them to sound the same. Scissors with the short I. Scissors. Those are for cutting. Caesars. Caesars. That's your emperor. Okay, but the big thing I want to talk about here is again stress.
The first time you get sick,
Okay. The way English works is that, or honestly, any language works, is that when you talk, you don't talk one word at a time. You group words together. And in English, when one of those groups happens, there's going to be one word that's going to receive central emphasis, and that word is going to be your stressed word. To give you an example, here's our first thought group.
the first time you get sick,
That's our thought group. The first time you get sick, the stress here is on first. The way we indicate that is when you stress a word, you need to go higher in pitch. Also, right before a stressed word, you need to take an extra step down in pitch. It's like the first, see if you can catch that movement up.
the first time you get sick, and the first time you get sick,
And one of the things you'll also see with this thought group too, because nothing else is stressed, we just kind of progress downward. So like the first time you get sick. So it's like the first time you get sick. And that sort of progression is extremely common in American English. It sounds very natural. Okay, so you have to make sure that after your stressed word, nothing else goes up in pitch. Otherwise, it's going to disrupt your language. Now, what we just talked about again, every thought group has one primary stress. On that stress word, we want to go up in pitch. What I often see students doing, though, is unintentionally stressing words because we are either lacking the control in our pitch or unaware of it. And the result is a rhythm that can actually kind of confuse your listener a bit. And you can tell if that happens. For instance, if people ask you to repeat yourself, if people are giving you faces as you're talking, trying to make sure to understand what you're saying, those could all be indications that perhaps we're stressing in a way that's not the most natural sounding.
sick, and your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken
Okay, let's take a look at where our next thought group is.
sick, and your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup.
Okay, when I heard the original audio file, I thought that this thought group ended on kind of multiple times, but it seems to me that the thought group is ending on chicken soup.
Sick, and your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup.
But there's a little bit of a problem that while it seems like just based on the pacing of the thought group that the thought group wants to end on chicken soup, there's a couple things that are disrupting that.
And your mom isn't there,
Just try to identify all the times where the pitch is trending up.
and your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup.
I'm hearing at least 4 stresses here. It's almost like every other word.
And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup.
And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup. Do you hear all those movements up?
And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup.
Every time that you have a movement up in your thought group, it generally is going to give your listener a sense that that's the stress word. And here, again, we have, if this is the thought group, it feels like we have four. The primary stress, if I were going to do this, I probably would have stressed chicken soup.
And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup.
And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup versus, and your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup. Or actually, this is the other thing too, is that some of the stress patterns, even for individual phrases, are a little bit off. So instead of force feed you, force feed you chicken soup. I know chicken soup looks like a compound noun. A lot of times the stress is actually going to be on soup. So instead of chicken soup, chicken soup, stress soup.
And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup.
And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup versus, and your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup. Do you hear the difference in rhythm? And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup. Or you could just stress force feed. And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup. And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup. Or you could stress mom, and your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup. And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup. Okay. Or you could stress, what was the first stress you did?
And your mom isn't there.
There. And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup. And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup. So those are just different examples if you just stressed a single word on all of those different options. But to put them all together into a phrase, into a thought group, is going to be a bit of a jarring experience for your listener. So we do kind of have to watch out for that because it can make listening to it a bit complicated because your listener gets thrown off by the rhythm. The rhythm isn't something that your listener is expecting.
And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup.
Okay. One of the other reasons too why it feels to me like this is all a single thought group that just has multiple stressed words unintentionally is the pitch levels staying pretty consistent. A lot of times when you have a thought group, they have their own pitch levels to them. When you have a thought group, they have their own pitch levels. Do you hear what I just did? I start here, then I move here. Or I go here, then I go here. Like every thought group kind of has its own pitch level. But this section is all kind of staying at the same level, more or less.
And your mom isn't there to force feed you chicken soup.
Okay. So, just kind of a thing we want to watch out for when you're talking. Just to recap, watch out for your stresses. Don't put too many stresses into a thought group. Ideally, you just have one. So that means we really have to watch out for the moments where our pitch goes up. Because if your pitch goes up too often, it creates a rhythm that is jarring for your listener and also is really going to chop up your sentence. So, just something to kind of watch out there. Compare those different examples I gave with one stress versus multiple. If you found this sort of helpful, if you like the feedback and you want to get some for yourself too, just note we have a group on Telegram where I give people this sort of feedback every single day. So if you want to get pronunciation feedback from me every single day of the week, you can go to fluentamerican.com, check out Telegram. All right, I do have to run, guys, but hey, thanks for hanging out with me a little bit. I will see you all later. Hope you have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon.